Hello, all, and welcome to Celebrity Conspiracy and Autopsy. This is your first trigger warning and only trigger warning for this episode. In this episode today, we're going to be talking about drug abuse. We're going to be talking about drug overdoses. If you have experienced that in your life, or have known someone, or personally experienced it yourself, and it's a little too much, I'm going to suggest that you scroll on and you don't watch this video today. And that in the next few weeks, next week we're doing Aaron Carter and then River Phoenix. That also has to do with drug abuse and drug overdose. If it is something that's too sensitive for you, please scroll on, don't watch, don't force yourself to watch, don't do that. I also want to extend my deepest sympathies and my condolences to Taylor's family. If this somehow gets to his kids, his wife, management, whatever, my condolences to the family, especially his children, because they lost an amazing father. And from what I could tell in my research and what I found in the last week or so, he really loved you guys and cared about you guys a lot. So now onward with the show. Hello all, and welcome to another episode of Celebrity Conspiracy and Autopsy with me, your conspirator host with the most, the Conspiracy Lady. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Taylor Hawkins of Sass Jordan, Alanis Morissette, more famously known in the Foo Fighters. We are going to discuss his addictions, sacrifices, and the conspiracies that surround him and the Foo Fighters. Now, you bought the ticket, and we're taking the ride into the life, the truth, and all the conspiracies that surround Taylor Hawkins. Let's get started, shall we? Taylor Hawkins was born February 17th, 1972 in Fort Worth, Texas, to his parents, obviously. I could not find any information on their names at all whatsoever, so forgive me. There's not a lot of information in regards to Taylor's upbringing, as there is much more information about his career and his life with the Foos and getting work with Alanis Morissette. There's much more about that than there is about his personal upbringing. What I could find was that he grew up in actually Laguna Beach, California, with his mother and his father, his brother Jason, and his sister Heather. Now, it's also said that during this time frame, his mom was struggling with some of her own demons. It doesn't really discuss what kind and where we're going with that, but I'm assuming it was probably drug or alcohol related, because there were times that Taylor has mentioned that she was passed out on the couch and that his sister Heather would have to take care of things and make sure that things ran smoothly. And his dad wasn't really home a lot. His dad was more of a businessman, so he wasn't really around as much, I guess, as he should be. It's also said, though, that Taylor got a drum kit at the age of 10 and learned how to play drums, and his mother was his biggest supporter. Like, she was the biggest supporter and would listen to him play, loved doing all that. But, you know, as far as family, there wasn't really much to find on what their upbringing was like. You know, was he a good student, this, that, or the other? There's not really a lot, and I think that's how Taylor liked to keep his life anyway. It was kind of private and kind of not so much out in the open like everybody else. But he really idolized Stuart Copeland of the Police. He loved David Bowie, loved Queen, and was a huge Motorhead fan. So he had a lot of those influences as he was growing up to kind of get that feel of what he wanted to do in music. So Taylor's first band was with a Canadian singer named Sass Jordan. So he was the backup band for her. And he worked with her in the early 90s until about mid-90s, a little bit later than that. And he also, there were reports in my research that I also found that he also was part of a band called Sylvia in the early 90s as well. He didn't stay with Sass Jordan. He didn't stay with Sylvia. He ended up actually getting a gig with Alanis Morissette, and if you want, I'll link it below. There is a video out there on YouTube of him giving Alanis an Icon Award at the Billboards, and he talks about how he thanks her for getting him into the industry, because that was where it started, was with Alanis. And he was so worried when he recorded and toured with Alanis that his drums were just too much and it was too crazy. And he actually was so worried that he had ruined Alanis's career. And she said absolutely not. Like, she loved his drums. She loved that energy that he had. Well, fate would have it that in March of 1997, Taylor was looking for something else to do, a new project to start, some type of new music to get into. And Dave Grohl at the time was looking for a new drummer for the Foo Fighters. And so it is said that Grohl was looking for a new drummer. Hawkins had called him, to which Grohl responded, "Yeah, do you know anybody?" And they say the rest is history. That's what got the start of it all. Now, there is something to say about Taylor's love of music. He was a huge music enthusiast, huge drum enthusiast. He just loved and craved music, and you could see it in his performances. You can see it when he sang Rock and Roll at the Wembley with Jimmy Page. You can see that he had this deep love and admiration for music. He had a certain type of technique that no one ever is going to ever be able to replicate. I mean, maybe his son, because his son did do an amazing job at his tribute concert, but no one's ever going to play the drums again like Taylor did. It's just not going to happen. His technique was something completely different. Now, it seemed as much as Hawkins had a less than perfect upbringing, he always seemed to have this positive outlook on life. He had this charisma about him, this charm. He had this very positive way of looking at things, making things fun and silly. And even while he had worked with Alanis, her career took off. So he had started working with Alanis before Jagged Little Pill, and afterwards she took off, and her career thrived and did really well. She won tons of awards, countless tours, just amazing artist anyway. And when he got with the Foos, the same thing kind of happened. They took off, and it was like, oh, there's been that missing piece this whole time. So now you gotta think, with the Foos, they recorded 9 studio albums, countless tours and concerts. They won 15 awards in their day. In their 25 years of playing, they won 15 awards. So they won many different Grammys, Billboards, MTV, you name it, they won it. But they also got the biggest nod you can get in the industry. And to some, it is a huge nod. To some other celebrities, it's not, because the industry keeps shunning certain people out. But they got the biggest nod a band could ever get. They got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by Sir Paul McCartney himself. And they got that nod in the industry that, hey, you guys came and you've done this amazing thing. Now here we go. Like, you guys are part of this forever. Now, there's something to say about the bond as well about Grohl and Hawkins. And excuse me from looking at my notes here, but Grohl is quoted in his book, The Storyteller, Tales of Life and Music, saying, quote, "I am not afraid to say that our chance meeting was kind of love at first sight, igniting a musical twin flame that still burns to this day. Together we have become an unstoppable duo on stage and off, in pursuit of any and all adventure we can find." Now, with that, a lot of people, there's always in music, especially in bands, there's always either a conquer and a divide, or there's always that matching energy, that matching vibe. And that's what Grohl and Hawkins had. Grohl didn't have that with the other members of the band. He didn't have it with Pat. He didn't have it with the keyboard. He just didn't have it. But with Hawkins, there was something there between him playing rhythm guitar and him playing the drums and keeping the beat of the band, that it just worked. It's just like Page and Plant and, you know, Tyler and Perry. There is something there that you can't replace these people. It's just, you have to have these ones. This is what makes sense. And further in my research, I also found that a lot of people said Grohl was kind of a dick. Now, this is nothing new. Some people probably watching this are like, what do you mean Dave Grohl's mean? He does this and he does that. Of course, it's nice, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of people that say Grohl's a dick because he's such a workaholic, because he's so strict about his music, because he's such an enthusiast about it. And I personally think my own self, my own opinion, so don't come at me, that it's more about him having that sense of control, because in Nirvana, Grohl didn't really have a sense of control. It was Kurt that drove the bus. So I think it was about getting that control and wanting that and learning to say, this is what I like, or this is what I am. But with that comes that sense of control. And when you can't control it, you become the over-controlled. He really pushed the band, too. You know, he always wanted to make a new album. He always had songs going on in his head. He always had stuff he wanted to work on. I did find an interview, and I want to say it was with either Loudwire or one of those articles that said Hawkins said in an interview that it was Dave's band, and he's not the boss. Meaning Hawkins was not the boss of the band. It was Dave that was the boss. And you listen to what Dave said to do, and you just did it, and you said thank you for it. And I'm paraphrasing, but it really was about what Dave wanted. And as long as nobody had any qualms or issues, it was an automatic, this is what we're doing, and that's it. Now, when you look at that, it seems more like it was, you do as you say, you know, do as I tell you kind of thing. And whether that's true or not, it's hard to say. And, you know, I can't speak on that because I'm not part of the band. I don't know any inside sources that know all that. But you can't confirm or deny it, but you do know Foo Fighters is a hardworking band. When did you not see them tour? Even now, they're going back out on tour in less than a year. Like, they just don't stop working. They're a workaholic band. Now, in 2001, Hawkins had suffered from a drug overdose of heroin in London. And it said that he overdosed and that Dave didn't leave his side for 2 weeks. And Dave was quoted as saying that he is not a religious person. You know, he never went to church or anything or did any of that. But that Dave would walk the streets of London when he would go back, and he would be praying to God, walking the streets of London screaming it, because he just didn't want his friend to die. Now, Hawkins was quoted saying after the overdose that everyone has their own path, and he just went too far. You know, and he didn't want it to be glamorized or anything like that. You know, he didn't want kids looking at him thinking, oh, well, Taylor Hawkins of the Foo Fighters did it, so I can do it. No, but he just went down a road that he knew he shouldn't have gone down. Now, later in 2002, Hawkins did say he wanted to quit the band. He said he was done. Like, him overdosing was too much. All of it was kind of becoming too much for him. And he even said he wanted to sell his house, go back and work for Atlantis, which says a lot, sell weed, or deliver pizzas. But instead, he finished the album one by one. And with that being done, Hawkins said, quote, that's when I felt it finally cemented in a band, at least for me. So that was when he felt like, oh, I am part of this band. I am part of this. This is me. This is who I am. He finally felt he had found his niche and found his calling in life, I guess you could say. So the band continued on. They continued to record, tour. They all got married, had kids, added band members. Pat Smear came back in 2005 after so long. You know, there was a lot of stuff that happened in the last so many years with the Foo Fighters. Now, in March of 2022, this would be the last tour for the Foo Fighters. And it was the last tour that Hawkins and his brothers, if you will, would play. This was their last time that they played. According to Pearl Jam drummer Matt Cameron, quote, he had a heart-to-heart with Grohl, and yeah, he told me he couldn't fucking do it anymore. So I guess they did come to some understanding, but it just seems like the touring schedule got even crazier after that, end quote. Now, it's also said that Matt rebuked what he said. He also came back and said, no, I never said that. Rolling Stone took my words out of context, and that's an easy ass excuse and an easy ass, no, I didn't say that, don't get me in trouble crap. Because, and I say that and I'm standing by it, because Rolling Stone has been known to mess up. They messed up an article back in the 70s, which is where you get the almost famous Stillwater, I didn't say that. If you've ever seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, go watch it. It's like towards the end, but you'll figure it out. They talk about that where it's like, no, I never said that. That's not what I said. Because Rolling Stone was getting shit on a lot for they weren't actually misconstruing words. They were literally telling the public the truth about what rock stars were doing. And because the wives and girlfriends back home and family can't know, that's where that comes into play. So Matt Cameron stated that the words were out of context and that Rolling Stone had made it something else. So this is where the first part of the conspiracy about Taylor kicks in. That night, the Foo Fighters played their last night in Chile, which if you actually go to YouTube, and I'll link it down below, it's actually one of my favorite videos now. I've been showing my family all week, and I'm pretty sure they're like, Mom, we are so tired of hearing about Foo Fighters and Taylor. Like, shut up. But there's a video of them at Lollapalooza, and it's Taylor singing Somebody to Love. And it was his last show with the band. And it's so endearing and so sweet, and it's so odd of a song to pick, to knowing now what we all know. But there seems to be tension in the video too. If you watch, I forget, I'll try to mark it and have you guys figure it out from there, but if I don't, you'll find it as you watch it. The video's like 10 minutes long. There's a point where there's some tension between him and Dave, and you kind of get this, like, is it just annoyed, like, oh my god, you're just being annoying, or is there more to it than that? You know, it seems a little odd. Unfortunately, we'll never know the truth about that. The only ones that will know are Dave and Hawkins, unfortunately. But after this concert at Lala, Hawkins had called Perry of Jane's Addiction, and he left him a message. He left him a phone voicemail saying, quote, take care of each other, and I'll take care of myself. And I'll see you in Sao Paulo. I love, love, love you. Sleep well. Well, unfortunately for Perry of Jane's Addiction and everyone else, Oliver Taylor Hawkins died on March 25th, 2022 at the Four Seasons Hotel Casa Medina, Bogota in Colombia. Now, they say that he died of a sudden cardiac arrest and that he was found unresponsive in his hotel room first. So what you have here is, first, they did that song, they did the Lollapalooza, they left, they went back to the hotel. Taylor was found the next day unresponsive in his room. They called the ambulance. Apparently, and it's kind of sporadic, which is hard. So there was rumors that Taylor was still, like, conscious, and then he became unresponsive as the ambulance was coming. And then it turned into Taylor died at the hospital. So there's a lot of misconstruction with this, and I think a lot of it, too, is a lot of language barrier problems, just because we're going from South America to North America. English, different languages. I know they know English, but, like, still. There's probably a lot of confusion. So now, in the press and in social media, which, like, honestly, and I even feel bad about making this video to some degree. I really do. Because, and I've talked about it with my own, like, family. that, this was someone's dad. This was someone's father. And in the press and in social media, and you can't escape it. You can't tell me even a celebrity's kid can escape this crap, because they can't. They're going to go on TikTok and it's going to be right there. Or they're going to get on YouTube. It's going to be right there. The news, it's all there. That he died from getting the COVID-19 vaccine because management pushed for them to get the vaccine before they went back out on the road. So you have that, which, do I think it's a probability? Yes, I do. I do. I'm going to tell you why I do think it's a probability. One of my brothers actually had a stroke from getting one of the vaccines. So do I think it's a chance? Yes. Taylor, at this time too, before the concerts and before the touring started again, he was actually going to the doctor and trying to get on vitamins and just do better by himself. He wanted to get better. He knew something was not right because he was experiencing chest pains. Now, the doctor had said he had an enlarged heart. So Taylor was fully aware that he had an enlarged heart and knew, something was going on with him. And nothing for nothing, getting that vaccine, being over 40, pushing yourself. You're not as young as you used to be anymore. You got to take care of your body. Now it's a little bit different. Is it a possibility that he could have died from that? Yeah, it is. It is a possibility. It's a huge possibility. So now that brings us to our next conspiracy, which is that Dave Grohl killed him. Probability, maybe. Doubtful. I don't really know. I can't. Guys, YouTuber Nicole Venn did a segment about the movie that they made, Studio 66. And there's a scene in there. I still haven't watched it yet. I don't want to watch it because, I don't know, I just don't. And especially now that Taylor's died, I just don't want to watch it. There's a scene in there where Dave kills Taylor in the movie, and then the film was released. And then a few months later, it seemed kind of odd that Taylor died a little bit after, which I can understand the conspiracy behind it. I get it. Do I think it actually happened? I don't know. I don't know. I can't say yes and I can't say no. I can't confirm it and I can't deny it. Do I understand what Nicole Venn was saying in that? Oh, yeah, I totally get it. Does it make sense? Kind of. It's a little far-fetched, but it does make sense. Do I also think Hollywood is corrupt and the Illuminati works in there along with the CIA and they make people do things and they have mind control and MK Ultra and there's shadiness that goes on in our entertainment industry to keep us busy and to keep our minds occupied? Oh yeah, totally do. Totally do. But do I think his death was a sacrifice? I'm really hoping no. I want to say no. I want to say no. And it's not just because I don't want to believe it, because I want to put on my blinders and just keep going. It's more I want to say no for the sake of his kids. I do. I have kids, so it's it rings in your ears as parents. You're like, no, please, no, that's not the truth. And moving on to our last and final one, he had a drug overdose. So now this one bothers me a little bit more because he didn't necessarily have a drug problem. So he did, but he didn't. So is this one a possibility? But here's the problem that I have with this. So my problem with this is that they didn't even test his blood. There's no autopsy. There's no nothing. There's no even a toxicology report, a full toxicology report. There's nothing. They said that they found it in his urine. So his urine apparently had 10 different types of substances in it, including antidepressants, benzenites, and THC, heroin, fentanyl, opiates. There's all this list of it, but there's no actual concrete proof that shows it, which I find disturbing. And I find it more disturbing too that his drum techie came out and said he never witnessed Taylor be high on stage. He never performed like that. That wasn't him. So to find this many substances in his body was more than a little disturbing. And I think the real reason why we have such a conspiracy with how Taylor died is because he died in a mystery. You know, he was on tour with his band. Everyone knew he loved his family. He loved his kids. He loved his wife. Like, he loved working. And he died under really weird, strange, almost Marilyn Monroe-like circumstances. And there's no autopsy, there's no toxicology report, there's no death certificate, there's no nothing. So it's almost like he was wiped underneath the rug. And I don't know, I can understand why people would feel that way. Sorry, I need a beverage. I can understand why people would feel that way, but also I think the most thing that I want people to take from this, and I want people to kind of understand, especially when we talk about more recent conspiracies that are coming out with recent rock stars or actors or whatever, that he wasn't just an amazing drummer, and he wasn't just this amazing music enthusiast who just loved and craved all kinds of music. He was also someone's dad, and I've said it a few times already, but like, this is why I've kind of treaded lightly into this one. Did I hit it with all the stuff? Yeah, probably. But, you know, when you really think about it, at the end of the day, his children, I'm sure, miss their father and miss that authentic him that he was with his kids. And I'm sure his wife misses him too, you know, and his family misses him. And, you know, the people he cared and loved about, they probably miss him a lot. So this is a heavy-ass topic. And at the end of the day, guys, it's really not about if Dave Grohl is some nice guy playing some fucking asshole piece of shit musician, you know, who sacrificed his best friend to make more money, which, I mean, just saying. But, you know, it's the fact that this was someone's dad, and they were warned about their health. They were trying to get it back on track. And then he went back out on the road, even though he was nervous to do it. He was worried about it after the pandemic and being home for 2 years and finding out he has this enlarged heart. Which, by the way, the autopsy does say that. Hold on. Hold that thought for a good second, guys. It said his heart weighed 600 grams. The average male's heart when they die is between 200 and 350 grams. So his heart was huge. You know, and then he died, and we may not ever know the truth about what really happened to Taylor that night. We may not know, did Dave actually sacrifice his best friend? You know, was there some kind of malicious, evil, satanic worship and practice behind this? We will never know about the internal demons that Taylor himself was processing and dealing with. But I want you guys to remember this, above and beyond all. Love music, embrace it, share it with the people you love. If you're struggling, there is help for you with drug addiction, or if you know someone with a drug addiction or a substance abuse problem, I'm going to link it either up here somewhere or down below. So click it, go get help. Please, sober is the best way to be. Not even kidding. It just is. I know that whole glamour, it looks great, but it's really not. It leads you down to a road of anger, hatred, all these dark things that you don't need. You know, and we should all really remember the good about Taylor, and not just for the sake of Taylor, but for the sake of his fucking kids, man. You know, that's just how I feel about it, man. It was a heavy episode today, I'm telling you. It was heavy. It was heavy even looking it up and listening and watching and doing all. It was a lot. But you bought the ticket. You took the ride. And our ride ends here with me, your conspirator host with the most, the conspiracy lady. I want you guys to remember, though, don't make movies with your best friend, okay? Worshiping Satan, and killing him, because in the next few months, it just may happen. And then what? Got nothing, right? Signing off until next week, where next week we are going to discuss the late, the great Aaron Carter himself. Oh, we are going there. We are going to talk about those pictures. We're going to talk about the Carter family big time. And we are going to break down some of this, because there is some truth to all this, which leads into other truths that we'll get into later down the road. So until next week, I'm your conspiracy lady. You bought the ticket, you take the ride. Bye for now.